Okay, welcome to this workshop about the CLDR and the survey tool, how to maintain a terrifying database of translations. So the objective of today is to explain the survey tool and CLDR. I'm just going to start from scratch. We'll play around with the survey tool and gather feedback and interest and contributions in helping out. This is that same slide. And there are some of the tiny URLs that I mentioned. If you want to get started while I'm talking, to try out the survey tool or to submit feedback. Just to kind of give you an outline of the presentation. So right now we're in the explanation, and then at 11:15 we'll start getting our hands dirty, and then at 12:55, 11:55. We will wrap up and discuss. We're not subjecting you to an hour and 45 minutes, only 45 minutes. So hi, I'm Conrad. I'm a software engineer and aspirational anthropologist. I helped launch over 40 languages in the user interface at Meta in the past few years. But right now I'm just volunteering for Unicode. I'm just kind of enjoying my freedom right now. I'm open to work, so let me know. Stephen Loomis was really helpful in getting this together. Also Mark Davis, Anne Marie sitting in the back there. Craig, Tom, and many other people actively contributing to Unicode, and people that built the foundations of this. There's lots of people that contribute to Unicode, so I also just want to say thank you to them. Okay, let's talk about CLDR and the survey tool. There are so many details, and so when we're in the demo session, I will happily walk around and answer questions. If you have a dying question, I guess we can interrupt the presentation. I'm going to give the Fredericks mic power. Hello. And so just some acronyms that I may unintentionally use a lot. CLDR stands for the Common Locale Data Repository. DDL stands for Digitally Disadvantaged Language, and ST stands for Survey Tool. So kind of my conception of the flow of data in Unicode is that, first of all, everything starts with the International Standards Organization. If it doesn't exist, Unicode, at least in CLDR, can't do anything about it. We wait for ISO to register a language. Now, of course, there's some people here that also work on ISO, so if we need to register something, bother them. But then things enter Unicode, and there's lots of data managed. There are some people that probably yell at the simplification, but this is kind of how I see it. So the very first thing we need are fonts and keyboards. There's a lot of other fun work that makes emoji. There was that talk right before this. But then a lot of data gets entered into CLDR, and so that's kind of the layer that I know the most about. And then a lot of that data is used in component libraries like ICU. These are arrows, but really think these should be bidirectional because, of course, all these things need to build on each other. All the stuff from Unicode gets sent. It gets used by operating systems and trickles down to products. The timeline isn't an instantaneous process. Sometimes it can be, but sometimes it takes years. But ultimately, if we want to support more languages, support them more in depth, kind of this is the whole flow of data that we need in order to get that support. Now, the one thing that the Digitally Disadvantaged Language Group is really focused on are the different coverage levels for locales. And so there's just about 8,000 languages in ISO right now. We have some early data for about 700 different languages, but they only have core data for 300. And then it's like as we go in higher in data quality, it really narrows down how many languages we're supporting. What do these coverage levels mean, though? I had a slide. Did I ever? Okay, it's out of order. There's some early data that we want, like information about the population that speaks the language, what the preferred language and script is. Core data is getting the exemplar characters, kind of starting to verify this data and get everything in there. Basic data is getting number formatting, time formatting, date formatting. And there's a lot more information here, but this is kind of the things that stand out to me the most. At the moderate coverage level, we're suddenly getting plurals information, casing information, language and country names. And at the modern level, we have grammar rules, emoji search terms. Once we get to comprehensive, then there's other things that like usually don't matter. So like, what are the Japanese eras? What are the translations for that? In Japanese, that matters a lot, but in Neo-Assyrian, they don't necessarily need to translate that, but there's an opportunity to. And by the way, if you, the link to the slide, there's a link to the slide, so you don't need to take pictures. You're welcome to. But you should hopefully be able to get that there. Does anyone have any? Anne Marie has a thing to say.
Yeah.
What is the intention level behind the different coverage levels?
Okay. So also, I've been on this for like 2 years. There's people sitting here that have been here for decades, so I'm going to try my best to answer these questions. Reasonably, we don't have enough time to get every single thing at comprehensive level. That's we would love to have all the information for every single language and every variation of the language, but it takes a lot of time to do this, and we want to make sure we're getting the quality information, that we're not just asking some teenager to translate an entire language using Google Translate. Power to them for being excited. But we want to make sure we're doing this right. And so there's a whole process, including voting. And ultimately, once it's gone through, what would you say? Like, when is a, yeah, it's like, at some point,
It's just like a teacher asking a question.
yeah, like at some point we're able to get this in like the Android operating system, and
Yeah.
you know.
So I can't explain early well. Somebody else will probably do that. A lot of it is to provide information about the languages, right? Core is kind of where we start adding a language. Generally, like ICU, though, won't pick up core data. Where ICU starts picking up data is when we get to basic. And so what basic coverage is, you know, does that language become selectable? And then at moderate, but, you know, different vendors, I guess, sometimes will pick stuff up at core. And then at moderate, it's really intended to be those set of items that you need for content handling, right? And then modern is for full UI localization. And then comprehensive is everything that in theory is not necessarily needed for full UI localization, but there are, you know, the technical committee will sometimes change whether things are at modern or comprehensive, depending on whether we think contributors should spend time on them.
Cool. Thank you, Anne Marie. Once you open the tool, you're going to see all of the translations and patterns that are in there. And they're at these various levels. So as part of the DDL group, we're tracking a number of new languages to submit. If any of you speak a language that's not currently supported in CLDR and or have contacts that don't, we would love to get in touch with you so we can start adding new data for locales in CLDR. Sometimes we need to take a step back because maybe there's not script support yet and we have to get that in there. But we're tracking that right now and trying to improve the process so we can accelerate the expansion of languages. If someone knows a language and is willing to submit data, we would love to have them contribute. But of course, it can be a little technical, so this is something that we can work on together. One funny thing in this is their submission cycles. So can you add your language today? Not exactly. Version 46, we collected the data in June and July of this year, and we're about to launch version 46. What's the? Tomorrow. That's exciting. Wow.
Fingers crossed tomorrow.
Fingers crossed. It's now been recorded, so it has to be true. Otherwise, we're going to have to delete it. Darn. But so it takes a lot more time than just collecting the data in order to to get these versions ready. There's an incredible spreadsheet just of all the things we have to get done before we launch a new version. I wish it was a continuous submission process, but we can dream. So we're kind of in version 47 right now in terms of getting new information. So any new information that we get now won't be in CLDR until next year, early next year. And this is also kind of like a ghost phase right now, because there's some fundamentals that we want to re-architect in the front end and the back end in different parts of it. And so we plan to open the survey tool for digitally disadvantaged languages in January. We're still working out the details of that. And then version 48 should be the next kind of full submission process.
So one caveat is that we plan.
Do you want to speak to the mic, Anne-Marie?
Yeah. So one caveat, we plan to open the survey tool for DDLs in January 2025 is actually a part of 48, not 47. So just to be so everybody knows that your contributions would be in 48.
Okay. Ultimately, everything gets put up to GitHub, and almost all of this data is saved as XMLs. But the international components of Unicode, for which there have been many presentations about, consume the data of these XMLs. But of course, people can also consume it themselves. But so this is ultimately where all the data lives after it's been submitted. There's also the charts. This screenshot does not show you just how much data is in here. But if you go to one of these links, you can see just all the information that's been submitted. One other funny distinction before we go into the survey tool directly is there's a difference between a language and a locale. So locale is usually language plus script information, region information, dialect information. Often you don't need to be that specific. For most purposes, there's one German, and most people can use that. However, there are definite dialects. And if you're thinking about like Netflix shows and labeling by that, there could be a Swiss German Netflix show, for instance. And so then you'll get into kind of more variations. Or what about German spoken in Luxembourg? There will be differences with how numbers are formatted in Luxembourg versus in Germany itself. One interesting case in this is you see there's like AR is the language code for Arabic. And so AR001 is like World Arabic or Standard Arabic. However, there are regional variations like ARSY for Arabic in Syria. But then there's also a language code APC that stands for the Levantine Arabic, which is the dialect spoken in Syria. So there's a little bit of overlap between these language codes. Largely, we focus just on the fundamental ones, like just like the AR.xml, but there's a lot of potential records to hold this data. And there's also some people that want us to add more variations like Catalan ES Valencia or English Mars and other variations like that. We're figuring out how to handle that right now.
Conrad, are you going to talk about parent locale versus child locales as well? Because then there might be a distinction to be made here, since AR001, which is World Arabic, which is what we call modern standard Arabic, is like the default parent locale for Arabic, and Arabic Syria, I guess, would be a child locale. So meaning that anything that's in the Arabic parent locale will automatically forward to Arabic Syria, except if a vetter goes in and makes exceptions. So then the Arabic Syria will only contain the information that is distinctive to Arabic Syria, and it basically says for anything else, go to Arabic Syria 1. And the other distinction here to make is that a vetter cannot actually vote for stuff in AR001. They will only vote for Arabic, and AR001 is just an alias.
Yeah, I think once you start using the survey tool, you kind of see this manifested. So let's talk a little bit more specifically about it, and then I'll go into a demo, and then we'll all use it ourselves. Okay, so the survey tool is a platform for tech companies, cultural communities, and individual contributors to submit translations and other information, as well as vote on the best translations and information for CLDR. So for instance, this is a list of geographic regions that would be used in like a common UI component where you're picking different continents. And this is both the original content in English and then the Italian translations. You can also see some of the voting information. It'll make a little bit more sense when we're using the tool itself. Some things that I'll encourage you to try out today. Pick a language, for instance, English Canada. Look through the current data. Pick different fields you want to update. Review translations and kind of see what the current options are. And also submit new translations and vote for alternatives. None of this is going to be saved. So go crazy. Add bad translations. Add fun translations. Try triggering error. Oh, geez, Anne-Marie, you're going to make a lot of work for us from this. And so but feel to go crazy. If you want to like vote on each other's stuff, then try to like pick languages that you can do together. Afterwards, how to contribute. You can file JIRA tickets. You can add a locale. Let's explain that in the next slide. Join the Slack, which I have a tiny URL for the Slack as well. Join a Unicode working group, and you can email me for all this. I have a question for the Unicoders. How does someone from the outside know how to join both how to file a JIRA ticket and how to join a working group?
I don't have an answer on how to join a working group, but file a JIRA ticket. File a JIRA ticket's pretty straightforward. So do you want to go to the Unicode website or CLDR website right now? And oh, you're on the charts page. Your stuff always mine always opens on charts too.
The first one, and then you have accounts.
No,
Or how
just
to get
click on the
one.
up left corner where it gets you to the home page. Oh, no, the CLDR one.
CLDR.org.
Yeah, cldr.unicode.org. Oh, nice. So now do you see requesting changes?
I see so much things.
There you go. Yep.
And then it has instructions for how to file a ticket, how to get a JIRA account. Yeah.
Yeah, but in the previous page that I was saying, it tells you how to get a survey tool account
That wasn't the question.
to contribute.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are two questions.
He was asking how to join a working group, and that is undocumented magic. So
Yeah. So email me, and I'll forward that email to Anne-Marie. This is a group of volunteers. So this is usually above and beyond everyone's job, and so we would love for you to join us in that. Okay. Specifically by adding a new locale, please collect core data. Some of that's a little techy, so I'm happy to talk you through it individually. There's a Google form to submit the core data, and then a member of the DDL group will work with you in order to start adding the language to the system. It is our goal to add as many languages as we have volunteers to add. So please join us and connect with either represent your own language or connect with other community members to add theirs. There's a link to create a survey tool account, which Mihai is very excited about. We are not going to create survey tool accounts today. We have logins to use, but definitely, and we're kind of revamping that process right now. So if you do it, it may take a few weeks for us to get on board. But there's logins that you can use in order to use the survey tool today. And then also definitely like help us requesting features, reporting bugs, or doing other contributions in JIRA. Okay. So let's do a demo. Now in my slide deck, I kind of have all the steps that I'm going to do in this demo in pictures, but we're going to do it interactively together. So we can just kind of answer questions as we're doing it. But that's there in the slide deck for anyone that's coming in late that wants to see it, or someone that can't make it to the presentation. So if you have a computer, please open the survey tool with this URL. If you don't have a computer, find someone that does. Maybe we should kind of move around just to kind of distribute the laptops. This is.
And if for some reason you already have an account, I believe you can just log in.
This is like, this is a different fork of the survey tool. So I'm not sure if existing accounts will work. You can try.
Unless he remove them.
And so multiple people can log into the same account. That's totally fine. However, I kind of created multiple accounts. The vetter has more voting power. And then these are just like go by your first name or last name and just kind of distribute yourself amongst these different locales, different logins. So you can like see what it's like to vote on things.
Which locales do we have access to? All of them? Or
so these accounts have access to all locales. Because we're not saving the data, so do whatever you want. And then if you want to experience what it's like to only have like access to Canadian English, then that's this login.
When you ask about social security and bank account, it's okay to give it?
There was one time where I was presenting and I started using an on-screen keyboard to enter my password. And then the students were like, stop. And I was like, yeah, thank you. And again, like a short version of the log informations here. The emails are both the usernames and the passwords. So we'll probably scrub this data in the next few weeks. So don't do this forever, but this is kind of something to get experience.
These are only on the basically survey version of survey that's basically on beta. So they don't. These don't exist in France, right?
Yeah, and these only exist in the beta. This is unless I've done something terribly wrong, these will not persist after. Stephen will fix it. Thank you, Stephen. Okay. Let's open it up. Let me increase the size. So like if you type in the tiny URL like this, and then you go in, then you'll see the survey tool. And it's funny, if I zoom in too much, you can't see the login button. Or I see the login button wraps. Yeah. All right. So we'll log in. So I'll log in as the Canadian one. UTW ENCA@example.com. And just copy over the password. Okay, so now we're logged in. So instead of seeing all the languages, you see some test languages and you see English in Canada. You can see that I can't make any modifications to English itself. I'd have to make, just because like that's the source locale of everything, the modifications are done separately. But we can open Canada. So we can see this dashboard with some errors and some recommendations. You see a bunch of information. Well, what we're gonna do for the demo is let's modify the emoji search terms. So if we look over here, these are all the different values. We have like information about the numbering systems. We have the locale display names. Let's go down to characters. So, now here we see there's no items at this current coverage level. So as we talked about the coverage levels right now for ENCA, it's at a lower coverage level. So we're not asking translators to submit the emoji search terms for English Canada today. There's other translations that we need first. But just so we can view everything, let's change our coverage to comprehensive. And now it will show all the different possible translations. And so now you see a bunch of categories now appear.
They should show it moderate.
yeah, they should show it. But they should definitely show it modern.
Moderate, sorry. They should show it moderate. You're at moderate.
That's modern. Thank you.
The new things for UI localization.
I'm just gonna we'll go back to the demo, but I also have created this canvas board Canvas sometimes works really well, sometimes it doesn't. So if you have things that you want to change, feel free to start writing things onto this board. The URLs, they're on the side of the board. Okay, so let's go into smileys. So there's a lot of information here, so let me hide that. Now, so these are all different pieces of emoji information. So if we search for drooling, so this is the emoji for like kind of closed eyes and the mouth is drooling. So there's both the name of the emoticon, and then there's also keywords in order to find it. So I'm just going to ignore the discussion there. So for the keywords, if you are on your cell phone and you're typing drooling, like in a text message to someone else, then it will recommend this emoji because you've typed in that word. And so if we want to, for the Canadian users, if we want to make other keywords also trigger this emoji, then that's how we can add it here. And so, so you see here, most of these locales have this vote button here that I voted for what's currently there. There's no variation with English Canada today. English Canada is just defaulting to ENUS.
We have betters on English Canada.
Yeah, there's vetting, but probably most of the data will match the US data.
I think
And
maybe the staging version doesn't, like it's missing some of that.
not necessarily, but also you'll see that the blue highlight means that it's inheriting currently.
Yeah.
And if you zoom out a little bit and go to the info panel, you'll even be able to see that more clearly.
I didn't realize we were volunteering.
And
Yeah, if you, yeah, these are votes for inheritance.
Go to dates. Go to dates.
And Mary, don't hijack the presentation.
wait, sorry.
So you can see how some of them are different. Like if you go to like Gregorian, if you go to Gregorian and you start looking at the patterns, Canadian English has different patterns than you'll have to scroll down to wherever the patterns are.
So instead of like AM capitalized, it's A.M. Now this is a fork of the database, and so we anonymized a lot of things, and so you can't see the old votes. So I think that's kind of one of the funny things for this demo. But you can expect that there was like Microsoft submitted something, Google submitted something, Apple submitted something, and then they can pick what they think is the best English Canada.
They can have discussions about it.
And it need not be tech companies. It also can be individual contributors and also local organizations. And there are way more languages in here. Feel free to try those. I'm only using English Canada just because we can all read English, and I don't want to like assume that you can all speak Italian, even though it's a fun language. Okay, so let's go back to the emojis. So if we go back to drooling, you see here, this account is currently voting on something else that's not the current submission for the drooling keywords. So I went in right before this and I added some more keywords like hungry and poutine, since poutine would make me drool. If I want to submit another translation, I can click on that button. I can click this button to pick the current winning translation. And I can decide that maybe like I still like hungry and poutine, but maybe I want something else. Why would a Canadian drool? I don't know.
Yeah, hockey or Tim Horton.
Okay. So this is, that's just the person's name.
No trademark stuff.
So I added some things. Now Anne-Marie's going to come in later and be like, no, I don't like this. I'm going to vote on a different option. And so that's exactly what you can do. You can also go over here and if you view this from another account, you can either vote on the same thing I submitted, vote on the original translation, or vote on something else. And so this is kind of the mechanism that we use in order to get feedback and kind of scale this out. And you can see, we have the UTW guest EK voted. I would say they added Hungary and A. Yes.
What
So
will be fun is those will get automatically processed to split them to be separate too.
oh really? Oh,
It's the emoji keywords.
yes. There are definitely lots of validation rules. Sometimes they work quicker. Sometimes they work slower.
Some of the processing we do after the vote. So.
Oh, and the guest vetter has accepted the Tim Horn translation. I am impressed that this is changing live. I didn't.
That's new.
And I think you have vote resolution further down in the info panel.
The info, you got
Yeah,
the
Click,
blue.
click on the little blue eye to the far right. Under, yeah, there.
It explains the logic.
Ah, wow.
This is why it makes sense.
Yes.
Can you explain the top, like column titles again? Like I'm trying to understand, I'm looking at a different language, but like it has code, English, abstain, A, winning, add.
If you scroll to the top of this table, you'll
just
see them.
Oh.
What are these columns again?
Yeah.
Thank you for slowing me down because it definitely took me a lot of time to kind of get used to this. So thank you for calling out. So code is kind of what it is saved in the XML database right now. So for instance, here, this is an XML file, and so there's kind of these like code points here, and so let me increase that.
It's how we refer to it for ourselves.
So like AF is the language code for Afrikaans, and the Zulu translation for Afrikaans is e-Afrikaans. And so this is kind of where it ends up in the XML. And so this is telling this code here tells us how we get into here. The English is just the current English version. So the name of the emoticon or the keywords.
And not everything.
Not everything has an English version because some data only exists in certain languages.
Most votes default at abstaining. What does this A mean?
That is the current.
Approval status.
Approval status. All right. Oh yeah, so like for instance, there one of the languages there was a lot of updates, but we didn't have a vetter, and so a lot of the entries were unconfirmed, and so we weren't able to commit them to the XML. So that's like we almost certainly need multiple people in order to vote on something.
So
Dates and times have a lot more churn and a lot of discussions and voting and
yeah.
So in the XML, the stuff in the A column, when it comes in, it basically in the XML gives it kind of a status of how much we trust the data. And so depending on that, different libraries like ICU will do stuff. Like I think ICU will not pick up provisional. Provisional will be in the XML, but it will not make it into ICU.
And then you see the add button. Here's how you start the translations, and the others are the different alternative translations. I'm not sure why we show these machine codes.
Because they're root. That is what it would inherit with their errors. Try voting on one. You should hit an error.
Ooh,
Yeah.
this is not happy.
And you also, the winning column is self-explanatory, but that's the value that's currently getting the most votes and is likely to succeed.
Mhm.
And also if someone submits another value, it'll show up in the others column and it will stay there until it gets enough votes that it wins, and then it'll shift. And if you're voting for something new, so you're adding a new value and then change your mind, the previous value will not stay there. It will disappear automatically.
Go find one of the locked ones that require 20 votes. What is something that requires?
Well, I guess I want to wrap up the demo so we can kind of interactively do this and walk around. But yeah, there's so much to this and so much more. And so the only last thing I want to talk about now is if you click the hamburger icon here, that's the 3 parallel bars. So if you do know a language that we are missing data for and want to submit it today, we're not going to keep this database. But if you want to get started, you can download everything that you've added. And so if you go into My Votes, Recent Activity, you can see that I have like a submission to English Canada, and I can click Download XML. And this will get me something that either you can, you may be able to submit on GitHub if you'd like to, or you can send it to one of the engineers and we can incorporate it. Okay.
CSV.
Yeah, CSV, or there's actually.
Okay, let's see some of Excel.
Cool. Well, I want to let you all loose. So I'll keep this up here in case you haven't logged in yet, and I'll kind of just walk around and kind of we can do things together, ask questions, and work on this interactively. We'll come back again just about noon, and we can talk about feedback. You should be able to have guest access to add post-it notes for feedback. Everything requires its own set of permissions, so I hope I unlocked everything correctly. But we'll do that, and I'll close the recording, so nothing more will be uploaded. So thank you all for coming, and I look forward to submitting things with you.